So the big tax question is this: how do wealthy people keep their money working for them when selling their business, real estate, or other highly appreciated assets without paying hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in tax? What if we, as business and real estate owners who have poured blood, sweat, and tears to growing our wealth, and who didn't hire expensive tax attorneys and CPAs to map out an exit strategy, knew their secrets? Instead of recreating the wheel, why can't we just model the way they deferred 30 to 50% in tax, paid off debt, funded their next business dream, and most importantly, leave a financial legacy to give to the causes we believe in most? What if their secrets weren't complicated at all, and you just need a guide who is a few steps ahead of you? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Brett Swarts, and welcome to Capital Gains Tax Solutions.
Cool.
Welcome to the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust is the best way for you to grow your wealth. Hey, I'm your host, Brett Swarts. In each episode, I'm joined by some of the best investment, real estate minds, financial advising minds, and passive wealth advisors in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. Hey, I'm excited about our next guest. He is out of the great state of Rhode Island. I've had the pleasure of visiting there. If you've never been there before, it's a beautiful place. And he is a real estate coach. He has a passion for not only owning investment real estate of his own, but also coaching and teaching others how to do the same. I want you to welcome to the show, Chris Prefontaine. Chris, hey, how you doing?
I'm awesome, Brett. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. And Chris can be found at smartrealestatecoach.com. And for our listeners, would you please just start out giving a little bit about your story, Chris, and your current focus?
Sure. So at the risk of dating myself, I've been at this since 91, so 29 and a half years. So I touched every bit of real estate, Brett, except maybe larger apartments, probably the only thing I haven't touched. And then after the lovely crash of '08, I called it the debacle of '08 in my book. I had to re-engineer the business. I literally didn't know if I'd get back into real estate. I was just beat up. And so we said, okay, what if we were to do this, if we were to dive in, what are we going to do? So we just kind of set up some new rules. We said, okay, we're not using banks. We're not signing personally. That croaked me after '08. And so we buy everything now, myself, my son, my son-in-law, and a small team. We buy everything on terms. And for us, that means owner financing and lease purchase primarily. And so we don't wrestle with that. I don't stay up at night thinking about that anymore. You know, the whole bank scenario. So it's been a great run. And then most recently, with of course the chaos with what's going on with COVID, the banks are shutting down a lot of people. So they're coming our way, and that's a good thing that we can help so many people.
Excellent. Yeah. So we're going to dive more into exactly that strategy and how you do it, and how you help your students do the same. But before we go there, I'm curious, Chris, I want you to connect. I want you to picture yourself back as a teenager or as a kid, right? I think we're all been given certain gifts in this life. I call them God-given gifts. And these gifts are used to be able to bless and help other people. So what is that one gift, Chris, that you believe you were given? And how does that help how you help people today?
Cool question. I would say just the exposure. Meaning, because that shapes everyone, the exposure at a young age to, let's say, my father's contacts, just seeing that, because he wasn't in real estate, but he would build his own buildings for his company, and I started to learn how the inner workings of that go. So I'd say exposure for sure.
Excellent. So just a dad or parents who gave you exposure to real estate and the industry and all of that together, and so it's just kind of been in the blood. I have a similar story, and then I grew up with my dad as a contractor. He's a contractor building houses from the ground up in Northern California and owning rentals, and so just being it's almost like you just absorb the language of real estate, of a business person, of entrepreneurism, right? Of all of that when you're inside of it. So that's absolutely a gift. I can relate with that. So excellent. So when did you become fascinated and or obsessed with helping others achieve financial freedom? You mentioned the 2008 crash and how that kind of rocked and changed your world a bit, right? So walk us through maybe a little bit about that struggle, and then the rise, if you will, and then bring it together, how you help people now.
Yeah, sure. So '08 was painful. It was like I had like 23 or so properties or projects, larger projects that, in my mind, naively, were coming to fruition like an ATM machine, and we're all set. When that crash happened, like literally a light switch went off. February of '08. I remember like it was yesterday. The banks come knocking, right? I was signed personally on every single one of those deals. Every single one of them either had bank loans or investor and bank loans. We bought them conventional. Despite my many years prior to that being in the business, I just didn't know about the terms world. So when values drop a third, sometimes 2/3, that was a headache. So from February of '08 to February of '12, I literally spent full time, 3/4 of my time, working those properties out. Foreclosure, workout, sale, liquidation. That's how long it took. Rebuilding credit. It was tough. And so after that is what I mentioned earlier when I said, okay, what the heck are we going to do now? And that was a pivot to buying on terms, never doing a bank thing again. I mean, literally resetting my life, going from a $2.5 million home looking over the water to a 1-bedroom apartment. My wife and I saying, okay, let's restart. And it was the best thing we ever did in hindsight. And it was the best thing that ever happened in hindsight. So we started buying and selling just in the tri-state area here. And then right around, I think it was 2013-ish or 14, a gentleman, we have a war college here. I don't know if you remember when you visited, but there's a war college on island. And a gentleman said to me, he called me and he said, I see what you're doing for real estate around the area. I am going back to civilian life. I'm tired of 3 tours to Afghanistan. Could you teach me? That's how that whole thing started. So then literally I taught him hands-on because he was local. Then I wrote an ebook to a little list and that grew. And now we have, 90 or so what we call associates around North America doing deals with us. So we're not about selling stuff, we're about doing deals in the trenches with them. So that was amazing. A long answer, but good question.
No, and it's a great answer, and it's great context, right? Out of the pain and the struggle and the frustration, right? You were investing in what it is now you're coaching and helping others, right? And that's essentially the beauty of mentors and coaches. Oftentimes, they just need to be a step or two ahead, right? And when you can help people break through that either false belief and or that limiting belief or that financial struggle, especially do it with real estate, I love how you partner with them, right? You're like, hey, we're going to be in on the deal with you. We're not just going to teach it to you. We're going to teach, coach you, and also put some skin in the game. So is that a fair summary?
Yeah, absent the skin in the game, because our deals don't require cash. I mean, are there some good deals that come our way where we could make a decision to do that and get more equity? Sure. But by and large, it's not necessary. I mean, literally in our agreements is a $10 deposit built in to have a legit agreement. But beautiful. Yeah, you said something really cool though, Brett, the headspace, the mindset piece of that. I forget how you referenced it, but that is huge because I can teach the same thing to everybody. That's what we do. We have a core course. Great. Why do some people do a deal in 42 days recently and some 365? Literally, it's all between the ears, I think. And so it's those, if they'll just stay with it, the only time you can mess it up is quit, right? They'll just stay with it. We can show them the pathway for sure.
Love it. Yeah. So let's dive into those actual deals now. So it looks like you're asking the seller to carry and you're doing some kind of lease option. So walk us through just an average deal that just closed recently and why the seller was selling, why were they willing to give the terms? How did you or one of your associates approach it and make a deal a win-win for everybody?
Sure. So I'll go lease purchase first, and then because the owner financing is a different strategy, which is more lucrative, but just so everybody can grasp it, for a new investor, this lease purchase is really a nice way to start because you're not taking the deed. I'm going to someone like you as a seller, and as long as you can wait for your equity, if you have equity, if you can wait for it, you're going to get the best price, and you're open to our lease purchase. And here's how it works. Let's just use some numbers. Let's say, Brett, your house is $300,000. We both agree it's worth about $300,000. Let's say you owe $250,000. So you have $50,000. You weren't able to sell it on the open market, whether that was COVID or whatever, you just didn't sell it. So I come and say, all right, Brett, as long as you can wait for that 50, you're not like looking to redeploy that for your family tomorrow into another home. I will do this. I will install my, what we call tenant buyer, needing time to get a loan. We will take over your underlying debt, meaning we'll just make the payment on your behalf. It stays in your name. Deed stays in your name. At the end of the term, let's use 3 years because there's a capital gains issue there. Then we will pay off your underlying debt. That's not $250,000 anymore, right? It's lower. So we gain there. And we will give you your $50,000. So long as you could wait, you get your full $50,000 towards the end of the term. And we win 3 ways. This is pretty cool from an investment standpoint. we get an upfront down payment from our buyer that needs more time to go in that house. They need a credit repair, or they need time to save more. They need time, especially during COVID. Banks made that tough. That's one payday, upfront, non-refundable. Second payday, I pay your underlying debt, but I collect more from my buyer every month in a lease vehicle. And then at the end, remember, we have all that principal pay down and any markup. I might have put that home at 329.9 or some markup. So every deal for us, the way I just described it, has 3 paydays, and every deal averages for us around 75 grand. So that's a pretty significant deal over 1 to 3 to 5 years, depending on what you structure.
Wow. So let me see, I got that, or at least let me try to bring that in. So you're approaching somebody, let's say the house is worth $300,000, and if for some reason they need or want you to come in to take over their debt, and basically they keep the deed, but you've got the debt now, and then you're going to pay that debt for 3 years, and at the end of that 3 years, do you have an option to purchase it, or is there another person coming in? Walk us through that.
Yeah, good question. So I have the right to purchase it with you, the seller, but it also gives me the right to sublet it. And so at the very end, that buyer that needed time to enhance their credit or whatever, they're closing directly with you.
Got it.
So
and the buyer is not the original owner. The buyer is somebody else.
Yeah, the buyer is someone else that I put in the house with my right to sublet. Yeah. And then I get them mortgage ready and they close with you.
Got it. Excellent. And so the average deal, and you didn't put anything down to start, right? You just assumed the debt. Is that what it was? Is that a fair summary? Or am I missing
sort
that?
of. So the word assume would imply that I literally went to the bank, signed up, and got approved like you normally would. We don't do that. We just make your payment for you.
Got it. Okay. All right. Basically, you're buying the option to purchase it at an agreed upon price within 3 years, yourself or somebody else. But you, in the meantime, will make the payments. Now, the debt is still in your name, Mr. Seller. The deed is still in your name, but we're taking over that burden that's on top of you right now for whatever financial hardship you might have.
100%. Spot on.
Excellent. So how do you find those? These expired listings, are you direct to seller, mail marketing system? How are you finding those? And then what's the typical motivation for that seller to do that with you?
Yeah, so 3 sources primarily. Expired listings you mentioned, for sale by owner, and for rent by owner. Those are 3 great sources. Now, who would maybe raise their hand and go, yeah, I need your help, or I want to do that? One, especially during COVID, they need debt relief. So that's not a positive, right? That's a stress. 2, or second home debt relief, whatever it might be. 2, they perhaps are in a great spot, but they couldn't sell it and they want the best price. They're not willing to lower the price, and they can wait over time. 3, unfortunately, with what's going on now, would be job loss, job change, that type of thing. That's rampant right now. That's why people are calling. That's primarily on the seller side who we deal with. And it's not always, I don't want to make it so it's always stress either, Brett. I mean, some people are debt free. They just go, hey, I want my price and I'll wait. And there's tax ramifications there too.
So want your price. So help me understand that. So you're saying it's $300,000 today, and they basically want to lock that in versus it might be $250 3 years from now? Or they could be right. There's uncertainty now. They could be thinking, oh man, I'll lock that in now. Or they went on the market and for whatever reason, as you know, expired listings, in the best of markets is expired listings, functionality, price, over leverage, can't pay a commit, whatever it might be. So they just wanted closure. A lot of people just want closure. About a third of the people we speak with will do terms. That's a big number. They want closure to just thinking about the deal or having to sell or whatever. That's what you're saying. They don't necessarily want to close. They could close the deal, but they just want closure on that. That I know for fact that $300,000 is the number, whether it's tomorrow or a year or up to 3 years from now. Yeah. I know that, right? That's what you're saying.
Right. 100%.
Okay, but if it goes up to $400,000, you guys win, right? Is that how that would work?
Well, actually, the buyer we put in the home wins because we lock their price in too. We mark it up and then we lock it in, so they win too. So so that buyer's acting like a real buyer. They just don't have their mortgage yet.
Okay, all right, got it. And so they're happy because, so I guess you're also not only trying to get the leads here, but you're also working on the leads with the buyer over here, or the buyers, right? And so then you're kind of semi-brokering the deal with no agents involved, right?
I'm marrying those two together in what we call a sandwich lease, me being in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
The way we can do that non-licensed, very important, is with that lease purchase option recorded on title. So we're actually on title.
Actually on title. Okay. Awesome. Wow. Obviously, you can see why you need a coach there, right? Because even me being in the industry being commercial real estate, multifamily, it's another dialect, right? All of these are little dialects inside of this real estate language, right? And then there's residential, there's commercial, even in commercial, there's multifamily, there's retail, there's industrial. And then even in the deferred sales trust installment sales space, there's lease options, which is even another form of dialect. So this is why you need someone like Chris. Again, you can find Chris at smartrealestatecoach.com. So Chris, walk us through maybe the average student who's coming in, right? What are they looking for and what are you providing, and walk us through how that works.
Sure. So pre-COVID, because there's a little change that happened recently, but pre-COVID, our avatar and the people we were attracting were people that like family businesses, because we're big on family and our culture is such. Two, they're sick of the corporate rat race, and so they didn't have much experience, but they want to see a pathway to eventually get out of the corporate rat race. We just put our seventh person full-time into real estate. So they came in maybe a year or two ago and said, hey, give me a plan. So we just had our seventh guy give his notice. That's cool, or couple. Third, they are in real estate and they're frustrated. And this is, I don't have that particular shirt on today, but our theme is bridge the gap. And that is all these programs that are out there, as you probably know, that they're great marketers, but they don't do anything to get deals done. So we're big on bridging that gap between, okay, I took a course, so I went to a seminar and I can actually do a deal. That's what we're into. We track it. We have metrics for time to first deal, and that's what we're working on. So that it's that frustrated investor that says, look, I bought everything and I can't do deals. Like, show me how to do this. That's who we're attracting. Now, post-COVID, it's a little different now because people are bummed with flying, with having a job, all that stuff. So we're getting a lot of that now. People just flocking into real estate, and in particular our niche, because it's thriving right now.
Yeah, absolutely love it. So, first of all, congratulations, the seventh person, the full-time into real estate. It's like the Dave Ramsey debt-free scream. We call it the Chris Prefontaine, what do we call it? Job-free scream, right? Corporate cool. Job-free scream. I don't know what that might be. I don't know. But then second, bridge the gap, right? Actually doing a deal, right? Making it reality versus, just taking the course and, getting the head knowledge, but not having the application. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. So cool. So, with that, what's the biggest limiting belief? We touched on this a little bit, but what would you say if someone's listening and they're in the 9 to 5, or they're even in real estate, they're a realtor themselves, they've always wanted to get into investment real estate. What's that one biggest limiting belief that you have to help people overcome?
I'd say, certainly they can, I can't. That's a common one in any business, but the other one is just managing expectations too, because again, too much stuff out there touting this is $1 million tomorrow type business. And so mismanaging that leads to frustration and just misbelief. So it's both of those. I think it's a combination.
Excellent. So after building your net worth and helping countless investors do the same with real estate, and I'm curious, what would be the top one or two pieces of wisdom to help others build more real estate wealth?
This would be for any business, the way you phrase that. This is how I'd answer it. I literally think it could be for any business, not just real estate niches. And that would be, you kind of alluded to earlier. One, like find a niche, because there's niches within niches, as you said. Find a niche you can get behind, like that you really enjoy, you think you can get behind, you're passionate about. Then number two, find someone that you also alluded to that is in the trenches, maybe a few steps ahead of you, because especially what just went on, you can't be following a system or someone that's not current. You get yourself in trouble. Things change too quickly in real estate. And once you find that person you can align with, and I mean values and everything too, not just a profit structure. And then third, put the blinders on. This is the toughie for 3 years. It doesn't mean it's going to take you 3 years to do a deal. It means if you commit for 3 years, you'll be willing to stick it out through the ups and downs, and you will have a phenomenal experience if you do those 3 steps. Absent that, you're just going to have frustration, in my opinion.
I love that. Yeah. So find a niche you can believe in and you're excited about. and then find someone you align not only with the niche who's done it and has the track record, but also you align with the values and that are there as well. And the last, just put your blinders on. Just stay dead center, focus on that for 3 years, ups and downs, and you will have success. I'm curious, how did you figure that system out? Like, where did you get that from?
Well, I thought, this is about a year ago, I'm thinking going, okay, what happened in '08? And what happened was one other time in the early 90s. So it was twice out of like 4 or 5 curveball storm economic cycles, 2 of them beat me up. And so I said, why? And to my surprise, I was actually bumming because I should have known this. I didn't have a mentor or someone to go to and go, hey, how do I pivot here? What's going on? Why did I get here? You know, I didn't have that. And I said, well, how stupid is that? So now I know this waters it down, but if you're my coach and I see something coming up or I see COVID happen, I call you and go, what do we do? You've been through this 5 times. I mean, so that's what made me think of that 3-step model. It's logical. If you want to open a restaurant, go do the same thing. Simple.
It's simple, right? But sometimes when you're in it, it's like it's hard to see those blind spots. I'm reading a new book, and he talks about exactly that. Like, and one of the quotes he uses, which I think is so powerful, is he goes, "I had to learn the art of trading, being right with trading with what was true." Okay, and it's something along those lines, right?
Yeah.
I basically had to train myself to trade the joy of being right with the joy of what's true, right? And those are where the blind spots are at. And he goes, as a part of that, I had to surround myself with people that are good meaning, you know, solid values, but maybe have disagreements with me. And I want to invite them into my world so they can help me see the blind spots that I can't see, right? Rather than thinking that A, I'm going to do it all myself, or B, I can figure it out myself. No. Just exchange that joy over there for this joy, and you'll be much more successful. I also can't help but think about also for 3 years, maybe it's the 10,000 hours, right? How do you get to 10,000 hours? Well, you spend 10,000 hours. Well, how are you going to do that? Well, it might take 3 years to do that. I know in commercial real estate at Marcus and Millichap, where I started selling multifamily properties, it took me a good at least 2 years. I mean, and we were 50, 60 hours a week, right? And this in the best training, and I call it the Navy SEAL training for multifamily brokerage. And it was amazing, but it took, and I was pretty young and I had to go through it. But once I broke through it, it helped propel everything else in my career. So I appreciate you sharing that. Any other thoughts on what I just said, or is that a fair summary?
One came to mind just then, and it was when you're talking about sharing thoughts and whatnot in that book. Unfortunately, success is a rotten teacher, right? That's what happened to me in 08. Oh, I got it. I don't need a coach. This is cool. Everything's great. So it's a rotten teacher. What you have to have, especially examples are rampant right now with what just happened to everybody in the world, and that is someone that went through at least 2 storms, if not 3. Storms being something big, change. So like for me, it was 2 or 3 market cycles, but it was also my son, having an accident, going into a coma. It was 9/11. These are all things that hit us while we were in business. Okay, so you figure out how to weather that and pivot. It's tough. But that's the teacher, not the success.
Absolutely. Well, so well said. Thank you for that. So are you ready actually, before we go there, I also want to tie in the capital gains tax portion of the podcast here. Okay. So you're doing all these deals. A lot of our listeners are doing deals, different parts of the industries, commercial real estate, it could be flipping houses, all of these different things. So, but one of the biggest challenges is capital gains tax, right? 30 to 50% of their gain with the depreciation recapture, especially if it's short-term versus long-term. So walk us through that biggest challenge for you, and then how you've been able to structure deals where you're either deferring more capital gains taxes or what is your strategy moving forward so you don't just get completely wiped out?
Yeah, so the piece that I mentioned earlier to you with the short-term capital gains with flipping, and the flippers can relate to this, we simply do, all our deals are like, the earliest you'd ever cash out a deal is 2 years. So we're never in that 1-year piece. We're never in the short-term thing. Now, as far as the longer term, many of our properties are, this is for a seller to know too, many of our properties are owner financing, where we'll hold the paper for the buyer, or the seller will hold the paper for us when they're debt free, and we are making monthly principal payments only. And this can be 5 years, 4 years. Our building we bought is a 20-year deal. That's my own building for my own offices. We didn't go to a bank for it. So it pushes the can down the road. spreads it out. A lot of owners love it. Like that guy said to me, I do not want to be cashed out because of capital gains. Do not cash me out early. So he gave us a 20-year note. So it's good for the seller to know and for the investors to know that there's room to do that. And then
let's pause there for a second. I want to dive into that a little bit more. So are you making interest only payments with a balloon due in 20 to minimize that? Or is it interest in principal? What kind of amortization schedule
it's
are you
actually
using?
principal only. This is why that's a whole other deal we do that we didn't get to. That's very, very lucrative, like 6-figure deals every time. We look for free and clear property. They don't have a mortgage, so they're financially savvy. They're easier to deal with, frankly. And we structure principal only monthly payments with a balloon some point in the future.
Okay, so let's walk through that. Say it's $1 million deal, and what's the interest rate and what's the payment? Walk us through how that would work.
We did one right close to that. So you came to New England, so we did one on Cape Cod. It's up on a bluff overlooking the water. The great example. She was a realtor that sold it to us. We bought it for $950, and we make monthly principal payments of $2,500. There is no interest. So $30,000 a year comes off of principal. We structured a 4-year deal, recently extended it. I think it was 2 or 3 more years. My son-in-law Zach did down, but so it's a 6 or a 7-year deal. So do the math. A 6-year deal, we just brought $180,000 down in principal. It's a great recession hedge. It's a great way to do our deals where we put a buyer in there that needs time. And that's why you can create 6-figure deals on these things all day long, as long as you get at least 3 or 4 year terms.
Okay, so make sure I understand that because this is so new to me with no interest. So I'm trying to think of from the seller's perspective. I get it from your guys, I believe,
Yeah.
right? But why would the seller do no interest? If in other words, if they just sold it, now they'd have to pay the tax, right? And then they go get interest. But what you're saying is, no, don't sell it. So far, you're not deferring you're not going to pay the tax, and we're going to defer it for 10 years and then do a balloon payment, at which point you'll pay the tax. But in the meantime, you received $2,500 a month. So connect those dots for me.
Couple things. Yeah, a couple things come to mind. No particular order, priority-wise. One is if they couldn't sell it like expired. For example, this woman's a realtor. She couldn't sell it on her own. So with COVID here, jumbo loans are tough. We just took a buyer for a $1.3 million house with a student in Colorado. He saw the house before COVID. He has 760 credit. This is why a seller will jump. He couldn't get a loan. They kicked it out last minute because of COVID. They wanted like 2.5-year reserve, something crazy. So he came to us after we put an agreement and said, I see what you're doing. You're kind of my pathway. I can get financing. I need more time to get reserves together. So we're going to put that deal together. The seller is tickled pink. He couldn't sell it. So that's why he'd go to it. This guy's a smart entrepreneur too. He's got several properties. So that's one reason. Other reason is just they want their price. Some of this is ego driven. Like, I want my number. I'll wait. They just can't have that comp go through that, low. They're debt free. They got their number in mind. So they'll take it over time and get to their number. It's amazing but look, a third of the properties in the United States are debt free. A third. So you can go fish in that pond for a while, and there's some great people in there. Now, I'm not saying you're going to get 3 of these a month. We probably pick up a deal like that. There's 6-figure deals, sometimes multiple 6. We pick up like 1 every third, sometimes every other month within our community and ourselves. But you don't need more than that in a given year to turn that kind of profit. Most people don't.
Yeah, that makes sense. So how are you qualifying these leads as they're coming in? Are they, because I imagine, a lot of them aren't going to work, right? So how do you quickly, get them down the funnel where it actually is, a good solid deal?
Yeah, it really comes down to will the seller wait and how long relative to price? Example, could we have paid instead of $950, could we have paid $965, overpaid for that house on the water, if she gave us an extra year or 2 in the term, knowing that it's all going to principal? Sure. So as long as we can see that principal pay down over time, we have enough time in the term. I literally don't care about price.
Got it.
So it's not hard to justify.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the timing, and what's the timing on that note that was for?
The owner financing, we don't do less than 4 ever. We start with that, and then during the years, we might work in what we call it a payday 4. But what it means is we're pushing that deal out even further and picking up more profit. And we might incentivize them. We might call you and say, "Hey, we owe you $200,000 at the end of this balloon. We can prepay some of that now if you'll extend it, things like that. We do that a lot.
Beautiful. Love it. Excellent. Well, that is a crash course in owner financing and lease options. But as you know, you don't want to be doing this on your own for the first time. That's why you want to hire a coach like Chris Prefontaine at smartrealestatecoach.com to teach you how to do this and walk you through so you're not getting any landmines here. That being said, Chris, are you ready for the lightning round?
Yeah, fire away.
All right. Knowing what you know now, Chris, if you could go back to your 25-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget you would make sure you would do or know?
I would actually sleep, eat, immerse myself in that 3-step formula that I gave. Because I didn't, obviously, twice, and it cost me a whole big bunch.
Right, which is find your niche, right, that you can believe in, a niche or a niche that you can believe in. Find someone you can align with who's in that niche already and actually closing deals or doing those types of things, and also align with your values, and put your blinders on for 3 years. Stay focused. Get those 10,000 hours in as fast as you can. Question number 2, what is the one book you recommend or have gifted the most in the past year?
The Hard Things About the Hard Things, I think was the name of it. And I'm sorry, I can't think of his name, but it'll come right up on Amazon. It was just more our style, like blunt to the point. Here's what's going to happen. Here's how you deal with it.
Got it. It's a direct communication. The hard things about the hard things, straight to the point. I love that. Give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for your business.
We use Slack for internal communication. You want one more broad for the student? We use Slack. It's the best thing we've done as a community for our students by far. They get to communicate amongst themselves nonstop.
Excellent. Slack. Love it. We use that too. We love that. Favorite leadership quote or theme you try to live by?
The theme is the Vern Harnish kind of scaling up model. We belong to a group called Elite Entrepreneurs, and that's all they teach. And I literally credit all our scaling in the last 3 or 4 years. I met them in 17, so 3 years, to them. They teach rhythm, meeting rhythm, value, mission, purpose, and it's changed our biz.
And say that one more time. What's the website?
Elite Entrepreneurs.
Elite Entrepreneurs. Excellent.
Yeah.
What are you curious about right now?
Well, I'm super curious what way the market will turn almost monthly, but in the next 6 to 9 months coming out of staying in the COVID crisis. Because I just said on a video this morning to our community, I said, there's one thing for certain, the billionaires, nobody knows. So I'm curious what's going to happen.
I think everyone is, right? Well said. This is our last question, then we'll remind our listeners where they can find you. But after all your success, Chris, after all the folks you've coached, all the people you've helped get financially free with real estate and or job free, how do you stay centered in your values, right? And how do you stay encouraged to reach for new heights?
The centered values is really a group effort because as a team, we kind of establish those. And so we directly and indirectly hold each other accountable to those. Like simple as a decision comes across that plate, someone knee-jerk reactions quick and they go, whoa, that doesn't align with our values. So it's like a self-check, and then the family, my wife and I do that as well. So constantly, it's like built-in accountability is the answer. Accountability with others. And then staying the course, was that the other one?
Yeah, stay encouraged to reach new heights. Like you accomplish all these goals, you make all this money, yada, yada, yada. How do you stay encouraged to keep, what keeps you driving to keep doing more and reach for even new heights or new goals?
Yeah, so 2 things. I as long as real estate continues to always be intriguing, challenging, and different, I'm here because I get bored easy. And there's no one deal, as you know, in any niche that's the same. They're just not. And so that's encouraged me to do my own deals. I love it. I'm passionate for it still. And on the coaching front, until and unless you coach, this is a tough one to maybe understand. But to see, like in the case of the 7th person going full time and families in tears over the progress and like, hey, I don't have to fly anymore because of COVID. These are real stories. That keeps me going back to teach them. Like I get a new student, I'm like, okay, how quickly can get you doing deals? It's just, and again, a coach goes, yep, got it. And the people that don't coach go, yeah, but why would you coach? So that's what keeps me going, just to see that success going from A to B, and they never did it before.
Love it. Yeah, the transformation in their lives, in their mindsets, in their finances, right? And what can it mean for their family? Yeah. Absolutely can relate. Appreciate that. Well, I want to thank you for being on the show. Can you remind our listeners one more time where they can find you?
Yep, they can go to smartrealestatecoach.com. And then as I promised you at the beginning, we can give them the book. We don't ship with COVID now, but they can get electronic. Just go to SRECbook.com. They just got to say they heard us on your show. That's all.
Excellent. So yeah, mention the show. Go there. Well, thanks, Chris, for sharing your gifts. That gift, your talents, right, your wisdom, and so much more with us this last 45 minutes. We appreciate that so much, and I want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing, keep blessing others, and keep making a difference for people to be financially free, job free when it comes to real estate investing. And with that, I want to thank our listeners for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. As always, we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, such as a seller carryback, lease options, is the best way for you to grow your wealth. Hey, go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com if you need help clarifying those options. If you're selling a business, real estate, or other highly appreciated asset, and schedule your free time with us right now. Please also share, rate, review, and subscribe. We so appreciate the support. And with that, we wish everyone a great day.
You have just listened to another information-packed episode of Capital Gains Tax Solutions with Brett Swarts. We hope you enjoyed today's show and found it helpful. Visit capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to access the show notes and to access more resources. Don't forget to leave a review and join us again next time.